Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there, it's Gemma. This is episode 270 of the new series of Cognitive, and this one is called Being Here. And I'm going to do it again, and I want to thank you all for your understanding. But I would like to take a moment of silence to acknowledge the sacrifice of my healthcare colleague, Alex Preddy, RN. And if you just heard a trill, that is Minerva announcing the end of the timer. I have to say I would like to be able to stop doing those moments of silence, but there are some things that must be observed. So I will say in the warm thanks department, I would like to thank Nurse Preddy for a lifetime of good service. And also, with regards to that, I would like to thank all of the nurses, wonderful healthcare professionals who serve. I would like to thank them for the lives they have saved, for the people they have helped. I would like to thank them for the nurses who have been kind to me over the years in my healthcare. I would also like to thank Republican candidate for governor in Minnesota, the former Republican candidate for governor in Minnesota, Mr. Chris Madell, who dropped out of the race because, and I quote, "I can't look my daughter in the eye and say I'm running as a Republican when they're pulling over Hispanics and Asians because of the color of their skin. I did not sign up for that." I'd like to thank you, sir, for having the integrity that I grew up associating with the Republican Party. And I am sorry that we have come to this time. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Turbo Gal, who sent me a long and eloquent letter, which I am hoping she will post in our show notes about supporting Minnesotans. I would also like to acknowledge my fellow Fincher, Sage Pecos, who is in Minnesota right now. And that means she is struggling and frightened, even more than the rest of us who have ICE infiltrating our peaceful states. On the brighter side, I want to thank Oink, and I hope I'm going to thank Laser Sheep, because I will talk about that in a second, but that was the good news of my week, and I just want to thank you, ladies. You are a hugely valued part of Cognitive Fiber Retreat and of the cognitive community. And I am hoping we're going to see you in another week and a half. I want to thank all my listeners, and I want to give you big hugs all around. You have no idea what your support means to me and how important it is to me, particularly at a time like this. I also want to say, if you don't like the fact that I just did that moment of silence, I'd like to warmly and formally invite you to stop listening. I don't need listeners at such a level that I am going to tolerate that kind of protest. In the meantime, I'd like to thank my communities on Finch, on Reddit, on the ground in the Santa Clarita Valley and the Antelope Valley, and most of all, in this group. You can see my two burbs. They are celebrating our 300th day consecutively of doing Finch. It has really been an app that has worked for me in terms of productivity and keeping track of things. How long will it work? Don't know. I have gone from app to app. I think it's pretty normal. People get bored of these kinds of apps. But I guess dressing a little bird up in various clothes and having my little bird travel all over the place in, I think I'm doing 5-day increments, has been a blast. I really enjoyed collecting those travel posters. I guess I'm thanking Courage and Forthright, my two birds, because yes, they're fictional, but they help me get through things. I want to point out that Cognitive Fiber Retreat 11.5 is coming right up on Saturday, February 7th. Yes, that's 2 Saturdays from now. The information is right there in the show notes. You can click on the place where it says all info is right here, and that will take you to the information thread. We are a little worried that we're losing our sustainable living because our mutual husband seems to have the flu. If you don't understand why I just made that joke, it really shows you missed some good at CFR 11, and I hope you will come to CFR 11.5 or CFR 12. At any rate, also, by the way, day trippers are welcome. So if you're in the Burbank gang and you're coming up, we'd love to have you. Okay, so CFR 11.5, February 7th. And the best news I have had all week, and I mean it, Oink posted saying, any of you guys want me to bring anything? Oh, I love you so much. I wasn't sure if we were getting Oink and or Laser Sheep or any of the people I've talked to. Nobody was giving me a firm yes or no. Please come. Don't make me beg. And don't make me stammer. It's been that kind of a week. The registration for CFR 11.5, you can see the information in the show notes. Please don't forget that our own Loretta 1031, who will be bunking with me. I am so looking forward to long pajama parties Saturday night and hopefully Friday night. Loretta, remember, I'm old. I need to sleep. We won't. We will be sitting up chatting all night. But we got to try, girl. We got to try. But Loretta 1031 has left a message about donations for her crocheting club for her school kids. There is some economic challenge there, so anything you can donate. She has the list of things that she wants. This applies, please. Non-wool fibers, hypoallergenic is the name of the game. Okay, meanwhile, what's on my hooks and needles? Well, I finished nothing. At least not this kind of thing. The stash toss remains at 3 skeins in, 2 skeins out since January 1st. I am very happy because I am working on the Cocoa Strange Brew. I probably should have finished it by now, but I keep getting distracted. All right, without elaborating on that too much, I'll get to it in the blather, I think. I will say, the Cocoa Strange Brew, I'm almost to my second motif, and I did join the club for Pacific Knits, the annual club where they send you a monthly thing. And you get a little card and you can do stickers on their app. And the app is free, which is nice. You can pay for a more advanced membership, but I'm happy at the free level. And I went in and collected my badges, yada, yada. So the January stuff came. And there it was, an oak leaf. Just exactly what I needed for the next and smaller motif on the Cocoa Strange Brew as I worked my way up the Fair Isle yoke. I am pretty happy about that. I will probably use one of the luscious golden oranges I have that is a little lighter in intensity than the sunset that I'm using for the bottommost motif. The background is still the cocoa because I just love that high contrast that way. The Coral Strange Brew. Say, Gemma, what have you been doing on that? Believe it or not, I have finished sleeve number 2 as of today, and I am now working on the body. And I believe I'm going to declare the ribbing finished and put it on the size 8 needles and go from there. The Coral Strange Brew has been providing my popcorn knitting by and large, but I will get to the exception there, that I like to do popcorn knitting when I have downtime. And that is one reason I love making sweaters and socks, because so much popcorn knitting if you're me. Okay, and I have discovered that even the ribbing on the base of the body is a popcorn knitting for me. I've gotten so used to doing ribbing after doing these 2 sweaters, the 2 Strange Brews, one after the other. Now, the Cocoa Strange Brew, of course, is my Romule sweater, and I'm still trying to finish it. So that makes things pretty intense for Vestuary, which is coming up. There will be overlap, kids, but it's okay because there already has been. On the Coral Strange Brew, I have an embarrassment of riches. I have no idea what I'm going to do for the patterning on that yoke. No idea. It may be a straight up geometric. It may be more pictorial. We will see. But I am really, really happy to be cranking through the Strange Brews while the weather here is cool. It's supposed to get into the 60s this weekend, so it's gradually warming up again. But while it is cool, this is the time to have a big lap full of sweater. Which leads me to tell you that I haven't really done a lot on the Dizzy Laser socks, the first pair. That was supposed to be my kind of popcorn knitting at night, sitting in my rocking chair in my knitting nook back in my bedroom. That didn't really happen because I got into all the other popcorn knitting I'm about to talk about. I have a lot of overlap between Vestuary and Romule 2025, I have to be honest. And that leads me to Vestuary 2026. You may remember I am working in the water green colorway from Malabrigo Rios that I ripped out from a previous vest that just didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And I'm wearing the same version of that vest that did work out in my hand spun. But for some reason I didn't make it work out in the water green. Probably I should have gone with smaller needles at any rate. So now I am trying to use a bottom-up pattern. I'm basing it on Ann Budd's pattern in the Knitter's Handy Book of Patterns. But I wanted to steek to see if I could get around the uneven stitch tension when I switch from stockinette in the round to the front and the back done side to side. Okie dokie, in stockinette. So, of course, I went to steeking. And you may remember I started steeking last week. And I had some really exciting adventures and I failed. I tried to bind off stitches using the pattern from Ann Budd. That works great when you're knitting in pieces or you're knitting up to the armholes in the round and then you switch to just continuing the front and then picking up and continuing the back. That works great. Nothing against Ann Budd's pattern. It's a great pattern. However, I had to figure out how you do that with the underarms. And I tried binding off and realized you can only get away with that for one row. The last row before you start the front and the back separated. So I struggled all week. And one of the things I did, and I did try to put pictures of all of this in the show notes. I sat down with Ann Budd's book and I actually pulled out a piece of paper. I actually used one of my paper journals. And I tried to diagram her decreases. So I wrote, here is the front, here is the back. And then I said, but that's not how I'm knitting it. The first thing I knit is actually the back piece in the order in which I'm going around this sweater in the round. So I erased it, started again. Here is the back, and I just sketched the shape. Here is the front. And then in the back, you decrease 5 by binding off the first 5 back stitches. You go all the way across. Now, if you're knitting it side to side, you would go to the second row of that same piece and bind off 5. But you're not doing that. You're actually going to knit across to the front and do the whole front piece. So I sat and I diagrammed how the bind-offs and decreases are done. Where it gets tricky, she has you bind off 5 stitches on front and back, and then come back the other direction, binding 5 off on the other edge. Then you bind off 3 on each piece. Then you bind off 3 on the other edge. So what I did was I diagrammed this flat, and I put the left sides together of the front and back in the diagram, and then I drew where the decreases would land. So from left to right on my diagram, I have it doesn't matter which piece, but I will say, since I'm going from right to left, that would be as I knit, that would be the front piece. So I drew that, and I put where I would bind off those 5. Then I drew the the back piece where it joins the front at the left boundary. This is just the way I drew it. You could have joined them at the right boundary. Don't get upset. And I put in where that 5-stitch bind off, which corner that 5-stitch bind off would be in. By doing this, I realized that on the first row of the now separated pieces, which I'm going to steek, I'm binding off 5 on each row. Instead of doing that, I used a stitch holder and just put 5 on a stitch holder in the first armhole, knitted across, put 5 on the stitch holder in the second armhole, and now we're back to the beginning, which is, for me, is on the piece that would be the back piece. And there I went across and took off 5. Now, here's the problem. Can't bind them off. It will just make kind of a mess. So don't ask. If you ever try it, you'll figure it out, because I did try it. Believe me, it makes a mess. So instead, what I did on that second row was I said clearly the back piece and the front piece are supposed to decrease by 5. Normally this would happen on what would be the left edge of the back and the right edge of the front. Just believe me, remember, they're going around in a circle. I'm thinking like I'm steeking a tube here. Okay, so what I did, on row 2, I went across, decreasing 5 on that entire row evenly across, which means I did a decrease on the right-hand seam, and then I did evenly spaced decreases for 3 more in the middle of the body, and then I decreased on the left-hand seam, and I repeated that process for the piece that would be the front as I went across. I got to row 3, did the same thing, except this time it was decreased once on each edge and decreased once in the middle. Why? Because I am maintaining the stitch counts in Ann Budd's pattern. Why? Because it works. I've done this pattern over and over. I can't tell you how many vests I've made with it. And the stitch counts work. The question is, how do you do this and steek? Oh yes, what happened to the steeking? After I completed putting the first 5 stitches in row 1 on a stitch holder, knit it across, put the first 5 on the other side, that is the front, on a stitch holder, knit it across. Now I'm back at the right-hand side of the back piece. I decreased that whole row by 5 as I've just described. Then I inserted the steeks. When I inserted the first set of steeks, here's how I did it. I put a stitch marker before I put on the steek stitches, so that I would know, here it is, the beginning of the steeks. And that stitch marker is moving. So every time I get to a new row further up the body, I have that first stitch marker to remind me you are coming to the steeks. Why? because I'm going to continue decreasing for the armhole as I go up. I hope you're all following this. There will be a test afterwards. No, that last part's a joke. Okay, so I put on the ring marker. Then I did 7 steek stitches. The first stitch I did as a purl because I'm old. I'm going to want to clearly see the edges of my steeks. So I did a purl stitch, then I did 5 knit stitches. I cast these on using a reverse cast on. So in that first reverse cast on row, obviously there's no purling. There's just the 7 stitches. But after that, the first stitch and the 7th stitch of the steek section are purled stitches. Will I live to regret this? I don't see why I would. Those of you who just fainted, take a deep breath. Does anybody need a drink of water? How about bleeding? Anybody having any strange external bleeding, like at the ears or eyes because I'm blowing your brain? I know, believe me. This took me 2 weeks to figure out. All right. So I get across my steeks, the first and last stitch, I will be purling. Then I put in a new ring marker. Again, this ring marker will move up the rows as I go. Think about it, you'll see why I'm right. This is so I always know the beginning and end of my steek sections as I am knitting. Why? Because right after the steek sections, I'm still doing the decreases on the body pieces. So I did that. Then I went knitting across what would be the front, and I did the exact same thing. I put in the ring marker, the 7 steek stitches, the new ring marker. And then I did my decreases as I previously described. So now I have the steek stitches in. Okay, so the first row of steek stitches are simply backwards loop cast on. But every row after that, the first and last of the steek stitches, stitch number 1, stitch number 7, are purled. The 5 in between are knitted. And now I am working my way up. So how'd that go, Gemma? I ended up with the first row, as I said, the very bottom, 5 stitches on each armhole, sitting on a stitch holder. On the second row, there is a strand of yarn going all the way across. It just happened. I'm not sure why. I'll hurt you if I try to explain it. Everybody's going to start having bleeding out the nose and ears. I figured out why that happens. Then I realized it is such a loose strand that when I go around picking up stitches, I'm probably going to kind of stitch over it as I go. I'll figure it out when I get into the steeking. But either I'm going to weave it back in or I'm going to tack it down when I'm managing those steek stitches. Here's the thing, it is not a problem. So that's where we are. So now I have gotten rid of all the bind off stitch rows and I have steek rows in there. I don't know how clear that is, so I did diagrams. If you look in the show notes, you will see a picture of the vestuary where it is right now. And if you look at it, I twisted it a little bit so you could see there is one of the steeked armholes. You can see the stitch holder hanging down. The next picture is an unadulterated picture of what I did. Now I only have a few steek rows in, so it's hard to see the purling. But you can see the stitch holder with the 5 stitches hanging down. I will pick them up as I go around. You can see that strange strand hanging in the middle. You can then see further up, you'll see the ring stitch markers at the top on the needle. And you will also see the steek stitches. If you look carefully, you will see the purled edges. In case you didn't do this, I also did a picture. I copied that first picture and I put labels in. And it's a little hard to see some of the labels, so you're going to have to work at it. Should have done them all in lemon yellow, but I tried in bright red and bright blue. But I tried to label the pieces. One more thing. You will see the ring markers, and on the outer edges you will see a red clip marker, like a safety pin marker that you would use in crochet. On the left side you will see a green one. What are those, Gemma? The right one is to remind me I'm on the back. The green one is to remind me I'm on the front, because I'm trying to keep track which is the front and which is the back. Now, that's not too important. The edges are going to be pretty much the same, because I want to put a rounded collar on this. If I was putting a V-neck, this would matter a lot because I would also be steeking where the V-neck would happen. I have to tell you, if I tried to do that on this vest, I would simply give myself brain damage at this point. So I decided not to do that because I think I would just hurt myself if I tried to figure out a V-neck steek in the midst of doing this other set of steeks on the armholes. But also, I happen to really like that rounded collar that petite knitter, Mette, I think over in Denmark, that she is using on her slipovers, which is her name for vests. A lot of people call them that now. I just like vest, okay? Call me old-fashioned. So I really like that folded hemmed collar. I've used it on hats before, and I'm sitting here wearing the petite knitter novice slipover right now, and I'm touching that collar and going, yeah, I really like this thing. So that's okay. I can do the necks the same on both sides. What will I do at the shoulders? Yeah, that's going to be pretty interesting because Ann Budd shapes the shoulders. I will cross that bridge when I get to it. Right now, the goal is to knit my inches of steeking, and the next problem will be the shoulder shaping. If there's even going to be any, there may not be. I may just take in the shoulder a bit at the neckline and leave I'll probably expand them on the armhole. Anyway, we'll see what happens when I get there, okay? I don't see why it should be that hard, but it's going to take some thought and some diagramming. So if you're all still with me, I haven't quilted, okay? Now, the wheels for CFR, I haven't done spinning, but you can see the wheels I was going to bring. I do not have committed interest on the wheels as far as I know, or on the loom. I might on the loom because who said they're going to bring a loom? And I said, yes, do it. Oh boy, give me a second. Drew Caitlin is talking about doing a loom demo, which means, yeah, I know that we have the crowd from Burbank wanted to do a lot of looming on CFR 12. And I'm not sure if they're coming to CFR 11. You can see I'm deeply concerned about who shows up. If you're day tripping, that would be a no, I'm not. Okay, so I may dig the loom stuff out and just bring the loom and see if I can sell it. And I have no idea what the current going cost for this is. I sold my wheels a lot discounted, and I'll probably do that with the loom, okay? So the loom is probably going to come. I think the wheels will not, because I think we're losing sustainable living, and I think she was the one interested in the wheels. You have time here. When you hear this episode, please, you can write on the Cognitive podcast discussion in our show notes. You can write and let me know if I'm wrong about that. You want one of the wheels. Remember our show notes, cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com, but you'll hear that again in the extra. Whew, wow, that was long. All right, a strategy. Well, it's been an ugly week here around Rancho Cognitive. No, we've been fine, but we have family in Minneapolis, so there's been a lot of fear there. And I want to quote Frostbeard Candles, which is one of my favorite candle companies. They make soy candles, and they say it best. And I'm quoting them. Our community is deeply traumatized and being terrorized by ICE. It is affecting everyone's daily lives to be constantly worried about our safety and the safety of friends, family, and neighbors. And yet, we have to keep on going, coming to work, in their case, selling candles so our small business can survive, when it has felt like anything but normal the last few weeks. It feels surreal sending marketing emails and posting cozy, bookish photos on social media. So we wanted to acknowledge what is happening in the city we love. I might add their shop is within blocks of where Renee Good was executed. Anyway, to continue Frostbeard, please visit Stand With Minnesota, and the link is in the show notes, and help our community in whatever way you can. We love our neighbors. We stand with them. We are deeply proud of our community for pulling together to protect each other from violence and hardship. We have a moral obligation to help those in need, and we will continue to do so. I don't think I could say that better. A contact in Minneapolis described to me some of the heroic things the Minneapolitans are doing, including waiting outside detention centers where they are being pepper sprayed and tear gassed. And what are they doing there? They are waiting for releases. They are giving the people released what they need. They start with water because they're usually severely dehydrated. Then they move on to clothing, transportation, locating their families because their phones and identifying materials have been taken and not returned. This is what's going on in Minneapolis. I don't care what your party is. Surely you do not believe this is a good idea. So, meanwhile, what is your strategy then, Gemma? Help Minnesota. California has problems. I'm seeing LA and ICE, and I'm not going there right now because it ain't about me. Minneapolis has way worse problems. I'm not going to go into why that is happening that way. It's pretty obvious if you live here. I am asking you to help the Minnesotans. We're going to say more about that. How do you get through this? How do you get through hearing the news that is so incredibly distressing? You know what? It's one day at a time, and be heard and serve where you can serve. I want to thank the healthcare workers. I feel really weird saying this. I did this in the quarantine. I didn't expect to have to do it again in my career lifetime. But I want to thank the healthcare workers for staying on the job. Let me point out to you, the doctor who tried to help Renee Good, he had to know she was dying. I'm not going to go into why, but it would have been obvious. He was doing his job. He was helping a person in extreme physical need. Do you think that guy's okay? I don't. The people who care for others need to be cared for. You are putting them under a terrible strain. And if you're one of the people doing it, I would not want to be in the hands of a nurse for a long time to come, because I think you are working to bias nurses against you, whether they want to be or not. We need to think of the ramifications. Be heard. Live one day at a time. Donate your skills. Donate your money. Donate what you can. But you got to hang on and do this one day at a time. History, in the short run, is not on our side. This can get a lot worse, and we have seen enough examples. But this also resolves in the end. And we have to hold on one day at a time. Use your skills to help the people around you. Try to be heard. Once again, to quote Frostbeard, we love our neighbors. We stand with them. We are deeply proud of our community for pulling together to protect each other. We have a moral obligation. Oh, shoot. I'm waiting for the wind to stop. I really need a run. You can probably hear it in my voice. The Mardi Gras Madness is March 1st. That should be exciting. I hope I'm able to do it. I'm really out of shape, but we'll see how that goes. In the fluffy books, yes, I finished A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic. I finished The Wizard's Cat. I finished A Fellowship of Librarians and Dragons, the sequel to Bakers and Magic. I didn't expect to go there. I really kind of liked it. I started the third book. These are really slow moving, The characters are kind of interesting. Let me try again. The Fellowship of Librarians and Dragons. There's only one librarian. And the dragon's kind of tiny. But it's fun. And I have to admit, I really like this central, I would have to say, female identified character. She's trying to work with racial and sexual difference and fluidity. It's interesting to watch her try. And I appreciate that she's trying. I think that's what's keeping me in this series. Bakers and Magic, it was hard for me to care a lot about. Librarians and Dragons, I found that character, that female identified character, is much more relatable. So I'm in another one where it's a fairy dating an elf. It's not really a fairy, but you get the idea. This author is stretching, Jay Penner. And, okay, I don't know if I'll make it through all. I think there's 4 books out and a 5th book coming. But I am starting to appreciate the way this author is trying to stretch. They are cozy. They are good go-to-bed-at-night, low-actions things. Now, The Wizard's Cat. You may remember I read The Wizard's Butler, and I loved it. I told my buddy Quantum Quadrat, she said, that's one of my favorite comfort books. I loved it. The Wizard's Cat, not going to give spoilers. Very low action, not what I expected. The Wizard's Butler was pretty predictable in a nice way, and I really found the writing delicious. The Wizard's Cat, not as great, but I really enjoyed it, and I hope he's going to write more of this series. Okay, so that's where I am on that. Something I really like. I want to thank all the knitters, crocheters, and designers who have come forward with resistance hats. And I think the new ones this week make a lot of sense. There have been hats with the words F, rhymes with truck, ice. I know there may be kids listening. I'm afraid if you wear that, you can be, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it, executed. Because they feel like they can do that now if you resist in any way. And so there is a new movement, and I'm going to point you to those hats in the show notes. One is from Yarn Cult, Minnesota. They charge, but the money goes to the funds to help the Minnesotans, all the proceeds. There are free versions, the Melt the Ice Toque and the Red Hat of Resistance. The links are in the show note. And also the Melt the Ice hat people, Yarn Cult Minnesota, also put up a crocheted version. All these links are in the show notes. Please consider donating to the hats that are charging you. But I also included in the show notes, and I believe these come from the Red Hat of Resistance page on Ravelry. She gave us 2 links. Donate to those impacted by ice. Donate to Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. So that's something I really like. You remember the pussy hat phenomenon? I don't care what you thought about the color, okay? I don't care. The pussy hat was this amazing protest phenomenon. It was very visible and very identifiable. This hat, or these hats, are trying to do the same. And I would refer you to the Ravelry page for the first one I list, the Melt the Ice hat. Yarn Cult Minnesota talks about the history of that hat and why everybody is knitting these particular types of hats. I really want you to go look at it, which is why I'm not going to tell you the history. Meanwhile, project back episodes on Proton. By the time you hear this, this will probably be the last time for a while that you can get back episodes 101 to 150 of the new series. Put a lid on it. The tea tastings. I hate to say it, I finished the Advent calendar. I loved this Advent calendar. I just have to say this. I think Plum Deluxe did a superb job. I really enjoyed it. I think there were 2, maybe 3 I could not drink because of alfalfa or lavender in them. I accidentally drank an alfalfa tea. This is still the truth. So let's talk about day 24 and day 25. Hey, Gemma, you've certainly taken your time. It's almost February. Yeah, that's because I'm drinking all the previous days because I love them so much. Day 24. Slowly unwind. Here's what's in it. Honeybush tea, linden flower, elderberries, apple pieces, raspberry leaves, strawberries, blueberries, rose petals, natural flavor. This was nice. That's what I would say. Would I buy it? Well, I was really in love with some of the previous ones. I think I mentioned them. Solstice Sparkler, I think was one of them. Yeah, and I'll talk about those later. My tea order from Plum Deluxe did arrive, where I ordered teas from this calendar, and they had a Hanukkah calendar, which had different teas. Bless them. So I ordered one of those too, and you'll be hearing about them later on and put a lid on it. I'll probably be doing more tea tastings. So would I buy this one? This was pleasant. The aroma smelled very familiar, put it that way, from some of the others. I liked it. I think it did a good job at what it does. The scent was very pleasant without standing out like, wow, that smells good. Look, kids, I'm a bergamot fan. Let's be straight up here. I love the smell of bergamot, which is why I love Earl Grey. Tastes good, smells good, decaf Earl Grey, my idea of paradise, only surpassed by Lady Grey from Plum Deluxe, particularly their decaf. Do they have a decaf Lady Grey? I'm not even sure. All right, so that's some pretty steep competition. Slowly Unwind is worth a try. I liked it. You can see in the tea bag, it's not a really pretty thing. They're not decorating it with little blue flowers or whatever. But it's a good, solid contender. I don't know if I'd go back for more. Day 25, well, it's Christmas. That's what it's supposed to be. So they're pulling out the stops. And what do you want on Christmas? Why, you want spiced date walnut cake. Yeah, baby, this one's complicated. Date pieces, not something I would have thought of putting in tea. Green rooibos tea, red rooibos tea, orange peel, cinnamon, cardamom, ginger, almond pieces. You ready for this one? Pistachio. Clove. They do not overwhelm you with it. Rose petal. I can't see. Can't tell if that's sunflower. I think that's safflower. Orange blossom. Natural flavors. This one, it's almost gingerbread. And the fact that it's not makes me even more happy. This has an okay fragrance, but a really nice flavor. I will see if the second tea bag, I've only used the first, impresses me more with the scent. But I gotta say, I enjoyed this. I had a cup of this on my cup warmer all morning this morning as I was talking to patients. And I found this very soothing. You can tell my voice is taking a bit of a beating. Oh, don't worry, I'll whine in the blather, you know that. But this is a good one. Would I buy it? I have to think about it. It's right on my boundary line because I bought my tea for the year from their sale. And I believe this one was in the sale of their winter teas from the Advent and Hanukkah boxes. So I don't know. I may go back and look. This wasn't a jump out of my skin. I love this, like some of the others, but this was a very solid contender. It's very rich. The flavor is complicated, and it goes up the back of your nose very nicely with a kind of spiciness that is not overwhelming. What I like best about this, cardamom and clove without overpowering you. If you like cardamom, yes, I do. If you like cardamom, this is a very solid choice and a very nice one. So nice job, Plum Deluxe. I don't know if you know that I do this. I've never thought to write to you and tell you. So I don't know if anybody's even listening up there in the wilds of Portland. But thank you, Plum Deluxe. This has been a wonderful Advent box. I find these things getting better year by year. I really quite like this. I am always ordering the herbal. I do not want to get hyped on caffeine too much. I have enough leftover caffeine from previous orders. Let's get on to the blather, shall we? Okay, I'm addicted to puzzles. Yes, I'm addicted to jigsaw puzzles. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I did one that was 500 pieces with a red-haired lady in a white gown facing away from the camera on a piano, surrounded by very brown wildlife. I'm rubbing my face like, oh, those flowers. Oh, towards the end, I had to piece just by finding the shape of the piece in the open spaces. Some of those last pieces were really hard to identify. I really enjoyed it. Then I went back to the sale at Barnes & Noble and I got a Jane Austen puzzle. I lost my marbles. It was 1,000 pieces. I did it in 2 days. I love this puzzle. I haven't got the pictures in the show note as I say this, but I will try to find them and stick them in. I love the Jane Austen puzzle. It was probably 15 mini images and pictures. So you got to do piece by piece, puzzle by puzzle, and then make a big puzzle out of it. The cuts were weird. Most of the puzzles I've done, the pieces come in a range of like 4 different shapes. Not the Jane Austen puzzle. There were some freaking weird shapes in that baby. And I realized they're doing that on purpose. Those are going to be some of the last pieces you install. I could not stop doing it. I thought it was a mistake to buy it. I thought I don't want to take on another 1,000-piece one. After the really wonderful 1,000-piece Moomin puzzle, I was wrong. I loved it. So that's nice. I can now do 1,000-piece puzzles. I think my sweet spot is probably 500 pieces. I can kind of do them in a day. But apparently I can do a 1,000-piece puzzle in 2 days if I love it enough. Meanwhile, on Saturday, the beloved son and I decided to go down to the Science Center. They'd closed the rose gardens that are the centerpiece of that whole block of museum buildings. The Natural History Museum, the Science Center, the Lucas Museum that they're opening, and the Endeavor display, which is also not open yet. But we went down to the Science Center. I didn't mean to. I just needed desperately to get out last week. Little did I know what this week would be like. I am climbing the walls to keep myself in my chair seeing patients. It's just been, well, okay, I'm not going to whine. In the meantime, the Science Center. There's a lovely picture of a train station. This is the Acton station. I don't get to visit it much, but I like it. They're trying to make it look like an old West town without giving you a restroom or a security guard. Actually, they do have a security guard. I have to say, I don't know them as well as the ones I've met down in the Santa Clarita Valley, but anyway, it's actually very pretty. We were looking up the line, my son and I, in the wind, and I just thought there was something stark and beautiful about the perspective lines of the train tracks and the station and all that. There it is. Then we went down to the Science Center. The Rose Garden in the center was closed because they're doing tours of it next week for members. I did not sign up for one. I don't think I can get there in time, and I'm not the gardener who would really appreciate it. I don't want to take another member's space. But the Rose Garden, it's not yet in bloom. It was very pretty, even closed, but we had to walk around it. Bit of a hike. To get to the Science Center, you can see, I took a picture of the Science Center, and the Endeavor display is towards the back, the big silver buildings, I think. I was last there when the Endeavor was in the Science Center, and so I'm not real familiar with the new layout. I need to go back like I did with the Griffith Observatory and really learn the place. But, I went upstairs to the top floor, and they'd taken out the dogs display, which I saw many years ago, which was very good. And so they have 2 displays up there. One is the science of fear. The other is about wildfires. I saw a little bit of the wildfires. You got to take that in small pieces. It's very stressful if you live here in wildfire country. But I went into the Anatomy of Fear. That's a very good exhibit. That is well worth seeing. When they try to talk about how it functions in the brain, they break it down into a very good discussion for non-scientists. There's coloring book exercises. There's a domino exercise. I love the domino exercise. I actually did it because they're trying to illustrate why your fear response does not go through your visual cortex, which would then interpret it into words. It would send it to the part of your brain that interprets in words. Why instead it's kind of going through your glands. It's a very effective display with dominoes. Nice job, guys. I explain this to patients in a slightly more sophisticated way 3 or 4 times a week because they want to know why they have certain reactions when they're frightened, and I say it. And you'd be surprised. The patients kind of go, wow, okay, so I'm not a freak. This is normal and human. So I put a couple pictures from that because I just really admired it. And there are scenic pictures. One is of a magnolia trying to bloom in front of the USC buildings across the Rose Garden. The other, at the very top of the show notes, is USC. It's Campanile across the Rose Garden. On Sunday, I just hustled around. I did a bunch of errands. I did go down to Glendale briefly. Anyway, after I got back from Glendale, the boys just came in. I was going through my sweater shelf. These are store-boughts, and I was thinking about do I want to donate. There was my varsity sweater from my university days for rowing. There I am wearing it. Yes, I'm wearing my college varsity sweater. How's the fit, Gemma? Pretty good. A little tight, but I could wear it around and be okay in it. Big, warm, crimson pen sweater with the big blue P. Those were great days. I'm proud to be a varsity oarsman from the University of Pennsylvania. All right, having said that, there's the usual, the links to help our siblings in the face of all the anti-LGBTQIA plus stuff going on. There are the community resources. There is the information of the USC law students trying to help people in immigration court. There is the information on reporting ICE and the app. There are all the dates of the upcoming events. You may notice the first one upcoming, CFR 11.5, February 7th. Be there or be bored all weekend. Finally, Minerva gets the last word. I have been upset this week. My patients have been very upset. I thought we already did this tango in the quarantine, and I did not expect to do it again. So it's been very stressful. This is not about me. These people have worse problems than I have. But I do want to point out that the ripple effect from these events has been a terrible thing to behold. Minerva has been in my lap all week. I did not realize she'd become my emotional support animal, but she did. So Minerva is lying in my lap, in my knitting nook, and she is just lying there purring. She's just lying there purring. Minerva's last words, I am still here for you. The beautiful things in life are still here for us, but remember, our animals are too. They are here for us. They are helping us get through because Minerva understands we are part of a community. And when we support the community, we are supporting the individual. Having said that, thank you for hanging in with me. Those of you who didn't like what I was saying, please go away. The rest of you, I am more grateful than I can tell you. You are my community. I do see you out there, and I appreciate your support. Everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.